Welcome back to Optimal Play. I'm Brandon,
I'm Steven.
and we're here tonight to talk through the player cards of the newest Mythos Pack 2 Arkham Horror, the card game, named after the classic Sum 41 hit Into Deep. I assume that the scenario in this pack is also about someone who's like stuck in a relationship that isn't going anywhere. Any
Yeah, and maybe
any predictions there?
maybe we also finally get to time travel to the 90s. Like we've been to lots of
Ooh.
exotic eras in time, but we've never been to like the 90s and alternative rock and
It'd be fun to get a time travel campaign that goes to modern or near modern day. I yeah.
someone did a
I don't.
Stranger Things fan inspired scenario I
Oh,
saw
that's
on
true.
Facebook.
Yeah, I think it might even be a whole campaign. I don't know. I've heard good things about it. Yeah, I have a hard time picture like has any LCG or really like collectible card game been set in like modern
Vampire.
times?
Like
Oh, that's
I
true.
mean it's
Okay.
fantasy, but it's modern.
I was gonna say Buffy the Vampire Slayer had a CCG too, right?
That's true. Yeah.
I guess just about like every TV show of that era had a collectible
But yeah,
card
Vampire
game.
was
But
actually a really good card game that lasted for decades, and they're actually making a new Vampire card game that I'm really interested in called Vampire Rivals.
hmm, I've heard people talking about it, but don't know the first thing about it. Well, we'll
There's
save that for another video. um, I forgot to remind you about this before we started rolling, but we normally start by revisiting a card that our opinions have changed on or that we've had a chance to play with from the previous pack. Did you have any card you wanted to revisit from the Innsmouth Conspiracy Deluxe box?
Hmm. Um. Let's see.
Usually, well, he thinks. Usually, we like coordinate this off camera and know what we're going to talk about. But I think we're so out of the rhythm from the starter decks and everything else that yeah, we maybe forgot to pre-discuss that. I have mine in mind though. Should I
Sure.
go
Yeah.
first?
Do it.
Okay, so I have played a decent amount of and wanted to revise my thoughts on Tempt Fate. It's the neutral player card from the Innsmouth box. It is level 0, costs 0, is fast, it doesn't take an action, and it draws a card to replace itself. It's basically the most zero card you can possibly have, and it puts 3 blessings and 3 curses into the bag. I actually think this card is great and should go in like most decks. It's something that kind of occurred to me even before playing it, but after we recorded our thoughts on it, that there's a reason that in card games you always want to play the minimum number of cards in your deck, and there's a reason that 50 card Mandy is not the best Mandy, right? In general, you can always make your deck better by taking out the worst 2 cards. And Tempt Fate, as a card that just, when you draw it with no cost whatsoever, it simply can replace itself in your hand, makes it so you're just playing a 28 card deck for most intents and purposes. And that's really good to just be able to trim your deck down further. I know that plenty of people like buy Versatile for the exact opposite reason because they don't want to trim their deck down. But if you're power gaming, it's actually a super strong card.
What about though? Are you able to make use of the blessed tokens enough to offset the curse tokens?
So it's hard to say. I've played a little bit with Blessing and Curses. I think the jury's still out on that. I think that if you combine this with anything that takes advantage of particularly the curse tokens, like whether it's that rite of sanctification that seals them and gets no, that's blessings rather. But still, if you're using something that takes advantage of the tokens, or what's the name of the survivor card that when curses get drawn gets added, it adds blessings? It was like a survivor accessory. The
Oh
name escapes me,
yes,
but
it's Token of Faith.
that's right. That's right. I think just like one person, even in a multiplayer party, playing something like those makes it worth everyone running Tempt Fate because it makes everyone's decks better. And then I've been playing it in. I know I've mentioned this a number of times. This campaign is almost done, and I'm sure start talking about something else. But I've been playing it in my big hand Ursula deck. And what I've been doing, I'm running Dream Enhancing Serum. So whenever I pair up a card in my hand, I can exhaust it and draw another card. So what I've been generally doing is waiting until I pair my Tempt Fates And then whenever it's looking like a round is about to come to an end and I haven't exhausted my Dream Enhancing Serum yet, that's when I start to play them to draw cards at fast speed, try to get that pair right before the upkeep when I can ready the Dream Enhancing Serum again. And it's been really good. The one downside is that Kyle in that group is playing Jacqueline, and all these tokens do kind of muck with her hijinks. She's not as happy playing Voice of Ra and stuff when there's six other tokens in the bag. But yeah, all in all, I think I'll be putting this into most of my decks forever until it's tabooed.
Yeah, so mine is kind of similar. It's Promise of Power, which is the Mystic 4-icon skill card that adds a curse.
Yeah.
So I played with Jacqueline. Pat was playing Jacqueline with Promise of Power. And it was just really useful that, like, if there's a test you really needed to pass that maybe you weren't that good at, like a non-will check for test for Jacqueline, or if someone else is just bad for whatever reason, to be able to just be very good at any one test, that's super important. And then maybe you fail a test later down the line, but it's hopefully not as important of a test. I feel like it really saves our bacon like maybe 4 or 5 times throughout the campaign, and it only screwed us like once or twice. So
yeah, I think that, so when we talked about blessings and curses kind of not having used them much yet, I thought blessings were real bad and curses were, or sorry, like blessings were not very good, not very helpful, and curses were more painful than blessings were helpful, but still not that painful. And I think that's still where I'm at after having played with some of these cards. Is curses, like, most of the time when you draw a curse, you go on to pass the test, or you fail but would have failed anyway.
Yeah. Or in the case of Promise of Power, like, let's say that your Seeker or your Mystic Seeker like passes a really important evade, and then fails a like investigate. But it's like you can just take another action to investigate. Like it can still be worth it to pass one test and fail another.
For sure. Yeah. All tests are not created equally. All right. Any predictions? Any thoughts on what we're gonna see in the Mythos packs now as kind of the blessing and curse themes develop?
I'm predicting, so there's normally about like 10 player cards. I'm predicting maybe 2 have to do with Bless Curse. Like I don't think they're gonna want it to be all about that, because there already was a decent amount. But
I think it's gonna continue to be like mostly blessing and curse cards.
Maybe.
I don't know. It's just, I think it's a pretty fun and pretty big design space that is kind of like limited to this cycle, right? Because they can't put it into future cycles unless they're going to keep including the tokens, which I don't expect. So I think that we're gonna like squeeze all the juice we can out of this mechanic right now.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like the mechanic though already works okay with just the box cards, which is why I could see it just being like 2 or 3 cards per pack for 6 packs, and then you've got a good amount.
I want my level 5 Tempt Fate that puts 10 blessings and 10 curses in. All right, want to give us the first card? Get this going.
Sure. So the first card is Riot Whistle, a 2-cost Guardian asset, item and tool. You may take an additional action during your turn, which can only be used to engage, and it's a accessory slot.
Extra actions are always good, but this is probably the least used action of all the actions. I don't know. Do you like this?
So like maybe in Zoe, especially, I feel like if you're using Machete, this becomes more valuable. Because sometimes you do have to take actions to engage with Machete. That's like the one downside of it.
Right.
And it just got upgraded to only 1 XP. So I think Machete is definitely worth another look. So yeah, I could see in any Machete investigator taking this, especially if you weren't using the accessory slot. I was thinking of Zoe because of the engage, but Zoe does also have her cross, which takes the slot.
Oh, her cross takes the accessory slot. Yeah, I was thinking Zoe too, because it makes her any time for Zoe that she would just attack an enemy that's on another player, she might as well engage it as a free action and gain a resource, right?
Yeah.
And that's yeah, that's annoying that it competes with her signature for the slot though.
I mean, I would still say her signature is a one of. It's probably worth playing one of this in Zoe.
Yeah.
And unless you're, taking police badge or something like that. And you could always consider Relic Hunter later. It's actually become better. There were cards like the Dream Vessel, or is that what it's called?
Oh,
Wish Vessel, Dream Wish something.
Wish Eater.
Wish Eater, yeah.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
The one that you kill stuff and then it becomes super awesome. With cards like that, I think Relic Hunter Zoe is valid. So you could have one of this, one of the Wish Eater, one of her signature, and like most games, you're only going to draw two of them.
Yeah, okay. I could go for that. And Guardians really, you mentioned Police Badge and then this Wish Eater. Neither of those are like staples for Guardians by any means. Do they have any other? They don't have really anything really like wanting this accessory slot if it's not their signature, right?
I mean, it depends on which Guardian. Like Carolyn definitely likes Hubert's Key. So Yorick sometimes takes Cherished Keepsake. So the off-class slot does often provide one, but it's true that in Guardian alone, there's not too much. Unlike Nathaniel, I can't really... Like, he has no off-class, and I don't think he needs Police Badge too much, so if for some reason you find your Nathaniel needing to engage a lot, you could play it.
This is definitely not going to Sister Mary, who's the Guardian for this cycle. I don't see her going out of her way to engage a lot.
Yeah, she also probably wants a Mystic accessory too.
Yeah, but like you would maybe not for all possible builds with her, but for the most part, I would think that you go with Holy Rosary or what's the pendant that lets you predict the outcome?
Yeah.
Anyway, that one. Okay. Well, behind it is the level 1 event Righteous Hunt. It costs 1 resource. It's a tactic and blessed. It says, wow, this is a theme. It says engage. Choose an enemy up to 2 locations away. Move 1 location at a time to that enemy's location. Engage it and add blessed tokens to the chaos bag equal to that enemy's horror value. It references Lita. Lita narrowed her eyes and tightened her grip. They wouldn't get away. Not this time. Not ever again. Okay, so wait. This... You choose an enemy, but you move to it. Engage it, and then add, 1 to 2 blessed tokens to the chaos bag.
Yeah, so you get an engage, a move, and a couple of blessed tokens. If you have the Riot Whistle, this is fast because it is an engage action.
Interesting. With the Riot Whistle, this is a free, or it is your additional action. Yeah.
So yeah, I think it's really good with the Riot Whistle. If you're not on Riot Whistle, it could still save you some time.
Hey, backing up to the Riot Whistle, Nathaniel had an event that is fight and engage, right? Does that get to use Riot Whistle's action?
Yes. So Nathaniel often does play Get Over Here, which is an engage and fight.
Yep.
So yeah, he might actually consider Riot Whistle.
That's interesting. Yeah, I think that's the only example in the game of an action that has 2 of those designators, and I wasn't sure how it interacted with.
They were just planning because there's that one Guardian event that says you have an action that can only be used to fight, and the Riot Whistle gives you an action that can only be used to engage. So they wanted to make sure that both of those could make you play Get Over Here.
Right. Okay, cool. This will be fun to play with. I don't think we've seen yet enough for this to be interesting for its blessed tokens, other than just being a little minor add-on here. because I don't think this is probably a Sister Mary card, and she seems to be the only investigator yet that is likely to go for like a really like a blessing centric deck.
Though, I mean, if you had like a Shriveling Out with Sister Mary or a Winchester, I could definitely see like, oh, the Seeker got through a monster 2 spaces away, and I'm gonna like move over there, take it off of them. Now I get to shrivel it, and I get a blessed token on top of it.
Yeah. And hey, if there's a boss and a massive boss that does 3 horror or something, this could be just a quick teleport like to that location where where everything's going on and dump a lot of blessings into the bag. Even if she's not an investigator that's doing some huge attack on the back of this, maybe worth a one of. I don't know. It'll be interesting to experiment with.
Yeah. Next up, we've got the Sacred Covenant, a 2 XP permanent. It's a Covenant in Blast. Limit 1 Covenant per deck. So I think this is something I've heard of Covenants. I think they were previewed. I didn't really pay attention to what they were because I try to stay fresh for these. Are you also going into Covenants blind?
I think I have kind of like absorbed the information that there's one of these in every class in this pack. I actually didn't know that we were sitting down to talk about the pack with the Covenants, but I knew that when we got to the Covenants, there I think would be one for each class. So, all right.
So, it has a reaction after an investigator at any location performs the Reveal Chaos Token step of a skill test, exhaust Sacred Covenant. Return any number of blessed tokens revealed during this test to the Chaos bag, ignoring their modifiers for this test. Oh, so it lets you say, I didn't need these blessed tokens.
So let's put them back in.
For 2 XP, that seems actually really good.
It's a permanent?
Yeah.
I mean, we don't need to reiterate how like the permanents are just inherently very good. We've talked about that a few times. This seems great.
Yeah, isn't this just the first 2 XP in like any Sister Mary deck?
It's like the first 2 XP in any deck that can run it because we've already said you're running 2 Tempt Fates. I think this because we've talked about how blessings are honestly like they only matter about 10 to 20% tops of the time that you draw them, and you already would have passed or fail anyway the rest of the time. This lets you save them for those 10% of the time.
And it actually enables like a weird play style where you build up the bag full of blessed tokens. And then at the end of the scenario, you can like take some test that you're terrible at. Like, I'm going to try to evade the boss with my 2 agility or something and be like, I'm probably just going to draw like 5 blessed tokens. So it'll be fine.
I mean, yeah, in a way, if blessed tokens most of the time that you draw them, the right choice is to throw them back with this. You are probably going to get to a point where there's 10 in the bag.
I mean, it is only once per turn, so like
because it's
unless it's like
solo,
probably the other players are going to use a lot of those blessed tokens out.
You're right. Yeah, this isn't probably enough to just make sure that every single blessed token gets its value.
Solo, though, it's interesting. In solo, you really could preserve a lot of them, especially solo Sister Mary.
This is the limit 1 Covenant per deck is interesting because it does actually only give. I noticed there's 1 copy of this card in the pack. So for one thing, if you want multiple Sacred Covenants, you not only need multiple players but multiple copies of this. Then again, it's a permanent card. It's easy to proxy. But so if they're all level 2 like this one is, a lot of investigators will be able to choose between a couple options. So like I'll be interested to see what the Mystic one is, to see, well, what is Sister Mary's other option that she can only have one or the other.
Mm-hmm.
I think that'll be interesting to see. So let's head towards it. We move into Seeker next though with Eldritch Sophist. How would you pronounce those words?
Sophist, I think. Sophists are people that specialize in talking. So Socrates would always argue with the sophist because he was a philosopher and he was all about ideas. And the sophists were just about talking and like being a smooth
They're
speaker.
they're sophisticated, right?
My brother's a Greek philosophy professor, so
Wow. Okay, so we'll look to you for all the Greek roots we don't know. All right, well, this guy is a 4-cost asset. He's ally and Miskatonic traded, so he can go with the archaeology funding. He uses 3 secrets and says, as a fast ability, exhaust Eldritch Sophist, move 1 secret or charge from an asset you control to another asset controlled by an investigator at your location. Once you let go of your assumptions, anything is possible. Oh, this seems really interesting. So it's funny because he uses 3 secrets, but he doesn't use them. he just enters play with them, and they are part of the population of tokens that you can then move around.
I didn't even notice that. Yeah, he has secrets to move already. Yeah, I guess that makes sense given that he costs 4. If all he did was move things around, it wouldn't be as good.
Yeah, and so secrets are mostly used by tomes and scrolls and those types of things, although not exclusively.
Like the most important card in the game, Mr. Rook.
Yeah, Mr. Rook uses secrets. So running the Miskatonic funding and this guy with Mr. Rook, and you can use Mr. Rook a lot of times. But so it makes sense that this guy can help with all your tomes, etc. It's interesting that you can also move charges around. So if you put this in a deck with a lot of spells, you can take those Rite of Seeking charges that you don't need and move them to your Shriveling or whatever the case may be.
So I assume that if you move like a charge onto a thing that with secrets, it doesn't become a secret, right? Like there's nothing
right
about converting.
That's my interpretation here, is that you've got to move from like uses secrets to uses secrets and uses charges to uses charges. Although I don't know if the rules of the game, like, can I use this to put a secret on my machete? Do the rules forbid that?
I'm pretty sure.
And can you now for the first time have secrets and charges on the same asset, thus really confusing things?
Yeah, and then later you move them both off with this guy.
Yeah. I think kind of the last thing that's interesting here is that it's a one-way trip. He can only donate to other players, but he can move charges and secrets to an asset controlled by any investigator at your location.
Yeah. So you could do like a 4-seeker campaign where 3 people have Eldritch Sophists, and then they're all moving them onto the one other person's Mr. Rook, who just has like infinite search.
What are you even gonna? Are you just going to put together the Pendant of the Queen 12 times that game, or what are you even gonna do with that?
Or you just like you do a bunch of maybe you do play the 50-card Mandy, and then you just keep on finding her like signature.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah, I'm not sure what the punchline of that is. What you're able to accomplish because you've searched your deck 12 times, but I look forward to someone figuring that out.
So there is one combo with this one, which is that Harvey came with the Forbidden Tome that has 5 secrets on it that you actually don't want. So you can just play this and Forbidden Tome, and then you have...
Refresh my memory, that's his weakness?
No, it's like a campaign card.
That you're trying to...
5 secrets. You want to get rid of the 5 secrets to upgrade it.
You're trying to blow through the secrets in order to identify it, and this helps you... Hell, this can take...
Well, but you also may not want to upgrade it. You might want to just keep it as 8 Mr. Rook charges. Like, between this and that, and Mr. Rook, you just got 8 charges. Yeah,
because the upgraded versions don't have secrets anymore. They have a quadruple action ability on them. I would be extremely surprised if this is a thing. The Eldritch Sophist plus Forbidden Tome as a fountain of secrets. Who knows? I guess if you keep moving them all to your level 5 Necronomicon and just pull off overpowered stuff with them.
That one too.
All right, what's
I mean,
next?
yeah, if Rook and Necronomicon are worth 4 and 8 XP, you should be doing all you can to put as many secrets on
To
them.
maximize the use out of them. That's true.
All right. So next is Stirring Up Trouble. I'm surprised that's a seeker
I
card
was
and
gonna
not like
say this
a
sounds like a
rogue
rogue.
or
Yeah.
survivor or something. So it's an event, 0 cost, 1 XP, Insight and Cursed. Um, does Cursed relate to Rex, or is that Blessed, or
Um, no, Rex is cursed, but it doesn't.
mm,
He doesn't
mm,
have anything to do with it. He can't play fortune cards. That's all.
Fortune? That was it. As an additional cost to play Stirring Trouble, add curse tokens to the chaos bag equal to your location's shroud value. Oh, and it's discover 2 clues at your location.
I love it. I'm sold. This is so cool.
That is pretty great.
I'm pretty on board, and I am a chaos lover in general in games. So the rogue, and now we're seeing some seeker opportunities to throw curses in the bag in exchange for powerful things. I am in that Ursula deck I've mentioned 100 times. I am playing. Oh no, now the name escapes me. But the survivor, or I can't talk. The seeker event that throws curses in the bag and draws 3 cards. Like,
Yeah.
and it's ridiculously good. But my team all rolls their eyes.
Yeah.
I'm here for it though. I love this.
Yeah, I feel like they're really giving the like griefing archetype. Lots of fun new toys in this pack or in this cycle.
I can't wait for the next it's going to be 2023 or something, but the next Arkham Knights, or when, there are events at local stores again and I can show up with my deck is capable of putting over 30 curses in the bag deck. Like, hello strangers, want to play a game?
You should just arrive with like 3 copies of the Innsmouth box and be like, yeah, I needed all of these.
When you start following a thread, it's hard to say what you'll find at the other end. I like that flavor text. Oh, okay. And then there's a Covenant and Seeker too. Like I think we were expecting. It's also a level 2 permanent asset. That's a Covenant, which means limit 1 per deck. This one is cursed. As a reaction, when an investigator at your location reveals a cursed token during a skill test, exhaust Blasphemous Covenant to treat that token's modifier as +1 instead of its normal modifier. After this test ends, return that token to the chaos bag.
Wow. That makes a lot of those other secret cards much, much better.
Yes, I would say so. Wow. So I mean, it's really quite similar to. Excuse me. Beer is getting to me a little bit. It's really quite similar to the Guardian Covenant, the Sacred Covenant, where that makes sure that blessings can be drawn at times when they matter most by throwing them back in the bag when they don't matter. And this is kind of the opposite. This helps you find times that curses can be drawn when they don't matter by throwing them back in the bag if they would cost you the test.
Yeah, it's interesting that one basically made the blesses 0 and threw them back in, and this one makes the curses +1 and throws them back in. So it's actually slightly more powerful, but maybe they found that the saving the bless ability was a little bit more important.
Yeah, that's the thing. Is it's nerfing the modifier on the blessing, but throwing it in, but putting a blessing back in the bag is a good thing. Versus this is an improvement to the modifier, but throwing a curse back in the bag is a bad thing. They're not perfectly symmetrical. But yeah, no, I think this is great. As someone who is planning on playing a lot of decks that use bless and curse tokens, I think I'm going to get a lot of use out of these covenants too.
Yeah, it's also maybe I feel like it's this one might be a little bit more controversial when to use it. Like I feel like with the blessed one, you're always going to use it when you overkill the test. You're probably not using it. I guess both of them there could be some arguments in terms of like this test isn't that important. Should you just fail it?
Just fail it to get rid of the curse.
Yeah, well, like with the Blessed Covenant, it's like should you put the blessed tokens back in, even though it'll cause you to fail because the effects aren't that bad. And with this one, it'll be like, should you just eat the test in order to get rid of the curses? This test isn't that bad. So I'm sure there'll be lots of arguments at tables over like how bad is it to like take 1 damage here or whatever.
I think with the Sacred Covenant, the Guardian one, it's going to be pretty rare that you say, I'd rather pass this and put the blessings back, or I'd rather fail this and put the blessings back in the bag, because as we've mentioned, blessings will probably be drawn multiple times per round, and keeping your asset non-exhausted is also of a lot of value. So I don't think you're probably going to fail just to save blessings that then are going to get drawn, and you won't be able to save them because your permanent is exhausted.
But if if you fail though, the permanent would still be ready because you wouldn't have returned the blessings to the bag with the sacred.
No, you've exhausted it to put the blessings back in. I thought you said you were choosing to fail in order to put the blessings back in.
Oh, I see. Yeah, you're right. Yeah. You would have to exhaust. Never mind.
And then this one, the Blasphemous Covenant, is kind of the opposite, where if you chose to fail in order to take the curses out, you would not be exhausting this.
Yeah. So yeah, maybe this one there, you would think about it more in the mythos phase and early in the investigator phase.
Yeah, I think Sacred Covenant is pretty no-brainer, and this Blasphemous Covenant is a trickier, more nuanced decision that is really interesting. Before we move on, the one other thing that I just noticed is that this only works on 1 token, and the Sacred Covenant was all blessed tokens.
Oh, okay.
Which is interesting.
That's why they give you the +1.
Yeah, so if you draw 3 curses, this only potentially flips 1 of them, in which case you've probably already failed, but...
Yeah. Cool. So now we move to Rogue. Breaking and Entering is a 2-cost event. It's a trick, so Rita can also take it. Investigate. Add your agility value. Hey, Rita likes this already.
Yep.
To your skill value for this investigation. If you succeed by 2 or more, you may automatically evade an enemy at this location. This action does not provoke attacks of opportunity.
You forgot the flavor text. I love this flavor text.
If you're careful, it's just entering.
So it's funny. It's kind of like it reminds me of the events we got in the starter decks that are like, play this when you want to do something anyway, when you want to investigate or you want to fight, and at the beginning of that action gain 2 resources. This is kind of like, play this when you want to evade anyway and have a chance to get a clue.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if this will get played a ton outside of Rita, but in Rita, especially, this is amazing in solo Rita because there might only be 1 clue in the location. So you might get like the only clue, then evade the enemy there, then
and leave,
get a free move out of the location.
Yeah.
So I think this is a solid card in Rita, an amazing card in solo Rita. Probably not worth it in most others, just because 2 cost is a lot.
Yeah, go ahead.
Maybe if you're playing that the trick reducing ally in Rogue, what, Chuck Fergus or whatever?
Yeah, was that tricks? I was trying to remember if that was Chuck Fergus.
I think it was tactics and tricks.
Okay. Yeah, and this makes me obviously think back to Winnie, who's kind of our Succeed by X champion. But I don't know if this is a big enough reward. Because I think of this as, for this to be worth playing, there's got to be an enemy to automatically evade. So you probably play it instead of an evade action, right? Like, you're not playing this instead of an investigate action, even though this is an investigate card. Mm-hmm. And yeah, so I don't know. It seems like an expensive roundabout way to get 1 clue while evading. And it has extra room for failure because you have to succeed by 2 or more.
It might be worth it in Trish as well, because especially solo Trish, because she can get the additional clue if she succeeds by 2. And if she doesn't succeed by 2, she can automatically evade the enemy instead with her ability.
I did forget Trish existed.
Yeah, so when she gets a clue, she discovers an additional clue or automatically evades an enemy. So I feel like, obviously, if you succeed by 2, you're always going to do the discover an additional clue ability.
Right.
So, yeah, I think this is meant to be a Trish Rita card, and they don't really care if it's underpowered and everything else.
I've got to say I'm skeptical, so I'm going to move on. To Skeptic. The rogue skill, it's level 1. It has a wild icon. It's practiced, so you can make this perfect. And during the skill test, treat the modifier on each bless and each curse token as +1 instead of its normal modifier. Oh, honey, what's the worst that could happen? Oh, this is literally a shoe stepping on a sidewalk crack, huh? Sure, this lets the rogues who like to put curses in the bag take tests safely from the curses, but I don't know. This seems...
But I thought you were putting 2 Tides of Fate in every deck, in which case I feel like this is really good.
I guess. But, like, still, most of the time you're not drawing those. Right? Like, this reminds me of, like, Defiance, which is, like, name a token and cancel that particular token. Good. And Defiance, 90% of the time, maybe this is, if you have enough curses in the bag, this will be 70, 60% of the time, but still, a large percent of the time, it just whiffs. And it's kind of like, what did I spend that card for?
Yeah, and this doesn't even say... I guess Diana doesn't have a way to get it, but it doesn't even say cancel. Yeah, maybe you're right. If it was like 2 XP but had 2 wild so that you didn't care that much if you whiff, it might be a little better.
And I don't, like, maybe on a team that is going all out with blessings and curses and just, like, letting it ride and trying to have more blessings and curses in the bag, but having a lot of both and kind of just, like, the tests are all over the place. This maybe almost becomes like an auto succeed at that point, right? Because all of a sudden those 15 tokens in the bag become a much more predictable +1 each. So maybe there's room for it in that kind of environment, but I don't see this as like a broadly useful card.
The other thing is, so Trish can take Practice Makes Perfect, but unlike Roland and some of the other better ones, she might be struggling a bit to have enough targets. So, like, maybe she includes one just to, like, make sure she's consistently hitting with it, especially if she's taking Tides of Fate.
You mean Tempt Fate?
Or Tempt, whatever it is.
Yeah.
I assumed it was Tides because this is supposed to be like the sea cycle.
Oh, yeah, that would have been a good name too. No, it's Tempt Fate. That's definitely what you're doing with that card. All right, rogues have a covenant too.
Yeah, they have a false covenant.
That's a good name.
Still 2 XP. It's also cursed, just like the Seeker one.
Yeah.
Maybe they're all going to be blessed or cursed. Reaction: when an investigator at a location reveals a curse token during a skill test, exhaust false covenant, cancel that chaos token, return it to the token pool, and reveal another token.
Wait. Return it to the token pool, which is not the bag. So this cancels a curse and removes it, right?
Oh, got it. Yeah.
For a second, I was like, why is it calling the chaos bag the token pool? And then I realized that these are 2 different things and that the token pool is a thing now. It is your supply of tokens.
Mm-hmm. This seems better than the Seeker one, right? You don't get the +1, but you remove it completely.
Yeah. I'm like comparing these, like, what am I missing? Because I agree. This seems a lot better.
I think the reason it's better is that the Seekers get more powerful effects for putting in curse tokens. So I think that they're kind of balancing that with this one being better.
Yeah, you know, that's true. Is I think that the classes do have, even though 2 classes do a lot of blessings and 2 classes do a lot of curses, they have different relationships with them. And I completely agree. Like, Seeker seems to want them in the bag under certain conditions, whereas Rogue doesn't. Rogue just puts them in the bag to get good things to happen when they do, and then has to suffer the consequences. So that does make sense.
I think that, like, for Trish, who can take both of these, though, she's almost always going to take the Rogue one.
Yeah. I think Rogues will probably, in general, take the Rogue one. Seekers, well, I mean, most of them can't take the Rogue one, but if they could choose, I think a plenty of Seekers would also take the Rogue Covenant. Mm-hmm. But there will be times and decks that are built around curses that want the Blasphemous Covenant.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right, Mystic has this is a classic Magic card name, and just all around good name for a spell. Armageddon. It is a 4-cost event that is spell and curse traded. Sorry, I said event. I don't know why I thought it was an event. I guess Armageddon just sounds like an event to me. It's an asset. It uses 3 charges. Says action, spend 1 charge, fight. This attack uses willpower instead of combat and deals +1 damage. If a curse token is revealed during this attack, you may deal 1 damage to an enemy at your location or place 1 charge on Armageddon.
Oh.
And this takes up an arcane slot. That's cool.
So it's 1 less charge than Shriveling, but you could potentially get a bunch of extra charges.
Potentially, yes. And this goes well with things like the Blasphemous Covenant that keep those curses in the bag, right?
Yeah, and there are a lot of Seeker Mystics.
Yeah.
So, it also has no downsides like Shriveling or the other one, Archon Blast or whatever it was.
Oh yeah, this can't backfire. I mean, I guess the downside is that you are putting a lot of curses in the bag for this to work.
I mean, you could potentially play this with no curses, just as, like, I don't want to take the horror from Shriveling. I wouldn't recommend it, but you could.
Yeah, I would maybe play Wither in that case then. Sure, it doesn't deal +1 damage, but it doesn't have only 3 charges.
Yeah.
And Wither's not a good card, so I don't think I would play this in a curseless situation either.
This is a very good card in Jacqueline, right? Because she's much more likely to be able to find that curse.
Yeah, this is actually something that would get Kyle to shut up for once about the curses I've put in the bag while he's playing Jacqueline. Because if he's just running Armageddon, then he can draw those curses, choose to resolve them. The downside of choosing a curse with Jacqueline's power, like the upside is it takes out of the bag. The downside is that you are then subject to whatever token comes up behind it, which could be the auto fail or some other bad token or whatever. Still, though, this looks like an attack spell that Jacqueline could use a lot of times if there's a few curses in the bag.
Yeah, pretty cool. And could do 3 damage also, like, in a way that no other 0 XP cards really normally can.
Yeah, we hadn't really dwelled on that the curse deals a damage, and it's actually to an enemy at your location. So you can use this to pick off a swarm of rats along with whatever you're attacking or whatever. Like, right, you can, if there happen to be multiple enemies at your location, you can even split up this damage if that would be useful. Mm-hmm. Which is not going to be applicable all that often, but, nice.
One last thing I'll point out is that 4 XP is pretty expensive, but I have seen a lot of people playing Robes of Endless Night recently, and this is the perfect cost for Robes plus Uncaged Soul. So.
Oh yeah, Robes and Uncaged Soul, and all of a sudden this is free. It just cost you an Uncaged Soul, I guess.
Well, next up is Eye of Chaos, even more expensive, a 5-cost asset, spell and cursed. Got 3 charges, and you can spend a charge to investigate using will instead of book. If you succeed, discover an additional clue. If a curse token is revealed, you may discover 1 clue at a connecting location. Ooh. Or place 1 charge on Eye of Chaos.
This can let you discover a total of 3 clues if you draw a curse.
Yeah.
And of course, and the caveat with both of these, you have to draw a curse and still succeed. Remember that those curses are not...
Well, yeah, right? Or you can just take the 1 guaranteed clue if you fail. Um,
Right. Oh, I see. Is that the case with Armageddon too? I didn't really realize
yeah,
that
yeah,
even if you
exactly.
fail the test, if you drew a
Yeah,
curse, you get this added bonus. Oh, interesting. Okay. That makes these better than I think than I was processing these. Um, I think these point to a super fun archetype. I don't know that we've seen a lot of mystic cards that put curses in the bag. So
yeah. I
they
think I
it's
was
almost
kind of expecting them because I'm used to like Delve Too Deep and like Mystics being the like really dangerous ones,
yeah.
but there weren't really. But Mystics have a lot of off-class slots, and of course there's multiplayer, so you can certainly play Mystics with lots of curses in the
They
bag.
they can play. Hey, was there event that changes the curses to blessings? Was that Tides of Fate? Maybe Tides of Fate is a real card, and that's that one. I
Maybe.
there's been too many new cards in the last 3 months. I cannot learn all these names fast enough. But anyway, so this does kind of frame that mystic card that takes all the tokens, converts them to blessings, but at the end of the round converts them back to curses. Like this lets you kind of cash in on those curses if if that's kind of the way that the tides turn. I like these. The one other concern I have on these is, in general, when you're playing Mystic, you are leveling up your spells as your campaign progresses. We don't yet have higher level versions of these to kind of keep them relevant and keep them doing enough damage later in the campaign. I'm guessing they will come later in the cycle, assuming they're not behind them in this pack. Nope, nope. I'm guessing they'll come later in the cycle, but we don't know that for a fact yet. And I think that if there aren't higher level versions, then you're going to end up upgrading these into a shriveling or something. And then are you really going to build your deck around curses in the first place? I don't know.
Yeah, I think that they must include upgraded versions because Arcane Research is like a default to in every
Yeah.
Mystic. So
Yeah. Yeah, you're probably right. They'll probably be in a future pack, which I'm glad about because I think they need to be. At the same time, that means that Mystics will have like some kind of boring pack coming up. But
yeah.
what are you going to do?
Yeah.
And then they have the Shroud of Shadows. Wow, there's a lot of Mystic cards in here because they still have a Covenant coming. The Shroud of Shadows is another spell. Oh, I see where this is going. It's a 3-cost asset that says spend 1 charge to evade. The evasion uses willpower instead of agility. If you succeed and the evaded enemy is non-elite, you may move that enemy to a connecting location. If a curse token is revealed during this evasion attempt, you may move to a connecting location or place 1 charge on Shroud of Shadows. Seems bad to me.
Yeah, it's okay. Like it only costs 3, unlike the other ones. Not quite as expensive.
It is cheaper. I think the reason that this seems bad actually is that the moving the enemy to a connecting location, or no, I'm reading the wrong part. The moving to a connecting location, the benefit that you get if you draw a curse token is not very good if you have failed this test, because the enemy will come with you, right? Unless it's massive, it was engaged with you and it's just going to be there with you at the new location. All that you've accomplished was like, sure, it's an
No. If you draw a curse token and you fail, you should take the charge so that you can use this again.
Good point. I guess you have that option to just take the charge instead of the movement. Yeah. Okay. I think I still like Mists of Relia better.
Mist is pretty good.
Yeah. Especially since it finally got a leveled up, or like a middle tier version. I think this is the least interesting one of these, but yeah, sure. If you're going all curses, maybe run all 3 of these, play the whole suite. Why not?
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that deck works. But next we have the Mystic Covenant, Paradoxical Covenant. It is blessed and cursed. I love it already. Reaction: after an investigator at your location performs the reveal chaos token step of a skill test, if both a bless and a curse token are revealed during this test, exhaust Paradoxical Covenant. This test automatically succeeds. Remove each bless and curse token revealed from the chaos bag after this test ends.
Yes. I love it. I so want to play a deck that is just throwing as many blessings and curses into the deck or into the bag as possible and running Paradoxical Covenant. I think that this is extremely silly. Right?
It's super janky.
It
But
put it implies an archetype or a playstyle that is just ridiculous.
totally.
um it is blessed and cursed traded, which is also pretty funny. It's living up to its name, all right. Man, I'm not even sure what to say about it. I think my question from earlier of would Sister Mary want to play the Guardian Covenant or the Mystic Covenant has been answered. She definitely is going to be playing the Guardian Covenant. Um, this is probably, I think, the one that's going to see the least play. I don't think that this one is a no-brainer, and the other ones we've seen are pretty much like no-brainer uses of 2 XP if people are putting those tokens in the bag.
Yeah, I mean, this one, you could definitely imagine the whole party kind of building up towards triggering this. Maybe you're using the Guardian one to keep on saving those blessed tokens in the bag.
Mm-hmm.
Is it worth everyone building towards this? I don't know, but it'd be fun.
Yeah, I mean, so I've been on Twitch. I play with Kyle and Ian, two friends on there pretty regularly. Hey, Kyle, Ian. I assume they watch these. I assume that they're in
That's
our
what
audience.
they tell you.
They probably don't. But anyway, um, we've been playing lately like themed teams. Not boring themes like all the same class, but like all of us are playing one of those progressive weaknesses that might kill you. Those kinds of things. I think we could go all out blessings and curses as a future theme, maybe, and run some paradoxical covenants. That sounds pretty good.
Sounds fun.
All right. Survivors actually look like they have the fewest cards. Maybe they took the bullet for the Mystics getting so many because it's just one new card and their Covenant. But they have the Mariner's Compass. It's a 3-cost asset. It's an item and a tool. As an action, you can exhaust Mariner's Compass to investigate. If you succeed and have no resources in your resource pool, discover one additional clue at your location. And then as a fast ability, during an investigation using Mariner's Compass, spend 1 resource. You get +1 intellect for this investigation, limit 3 times per investigation. It takes up a hand slot, so this is a clue fire axe.
Wow. This is really good.
It does seem really good. It's
This
funny
is just
because
like a no-brainer in any Dark Horse deck.
Yeah, in Dark Horse,
unless they really need their hand slots, I guess.
I mean, I wouldn't say a no-brainer in any Dark Horse deck because you still need to have okay intellect for this to do much, right? Like Fire Axe I wouldn't say is a no-brainer. Well,
but I mean, kind of the whole point of a Dark Horse deck is that you're like, okay,
it makes all your
everything.
skills
like
decent. Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, yeah, Fire Axe in one hand, Compass in the other hand. Really, you're ready for any situation. This is pretty cool. I kind of can't believe, like, Fire Axe was that Dunwich cycle? It's been around forever. I can't believe it took 4 years to get the investigation version.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's actually worse in every way than Fire Axe, but I think that's okay because of Investigate, because it costs more to install, it exhausts, which Fire Axe doesn't, and you only get +1 for a resource instead of +2. But I think all of that's okay.
Oh, it does. Yeah, that's a good point. Fire Axe doesn't exhaust. Yeah, I was going to say getting 2 clues is better than 2 damage. So in that way, I would say, like, I don't think that this is necessarily a worse card. You're right that it is. Each of the bullet points kind of has a little bit of like it's a little worse than Fire Axe. But Fire Axe is a very good card.
This is a really interesting boost to Preston. So for those who don't know, Preston's resources on his family inheritance do not count as resources for the purpose of Dark Horse or Fire Axe, and so the same thing will apply here.
Yeah.
So you can just imagine him dual wielding this and the fire axe, and just has to make sure he spends one real resource at the start of every turn,
Yep.
or not taking the dark
Or
horse. But there's no, you might as well just take it and spend it. Um, and he doesn't even really need streetwise. I mean, I guess you need it to evade, but like it's a lot less important now.
yeah, I agree. I guess I don't. I said yeah, like I was going to add on some thought to that, but I think that's well put. Um, I never got around to playing Preston. I played with you at least one campaign where you were playing Preston. I've never played him, but
Preston's super fun. So
yeah, I gotta get back to him at some point. Okay, one last covenant. What do we got?
all right, the Ancient Covenant is blessed. Reaction: when an investigator or location resolves a blessed token during a skill test, exhaust Ancient Covenant. Do not reveal another token as part of the blessed tokens effect.
This is cool. This
It's
turns blessed tokens into +2 period.
Yep. I feel like just like the Mystic one though, it's like I don't know. I mean, I guess if you have a lot of blessed tokens, this becomes better because it lets you take a test where you're like, I probably can't succeed unless I draw a bless. I feel like if you only have a couple blessed tokens in the bag, you're probably taking the test because you think you can succeed. Like you have a
Yeah,
pretty good shot regardless.
that's true. But we've seen survivors having a lot of blessed token access, right? Like they had an event. The name escapes me, like so many have tonight. But they have an event that just dumps like 4 blessed tokens into the bag, and they have their accessory that converts curses to blesses. And then considering this is not like one-time use or it has to happen at a certain time, it's just on demand for any time you draw a
It does
blessed token.
exhaust, but
What's that? Oh, it
it
does
does
exhaust. Sure.
exhaust.
It does exhaust, yeah. But I think well worth the 2 XP if you have access to this and people are putting blesses in the bag.
Mm-hmm.
Because I mean, even so, like, all right, so we've seen all the covenants now. Just 2 experience points for a permanent on one of these. Honestly, if they only save you from a test or eliminate a few curses from the bag or whatever it is that each one does, if that only happens once or twice a game, that's still, you've got a decent use out of 2 XP in that game. Whereas plenty of other XP cards, just you draw them at the wrong time and spend them for their icons, or don't draw them, or whatever it is. Like I think these are gonna be, man. If you're playing with cards from the Innsmouth conspiracy cycle, I think a covenant, with the exception of the Mystic Paradoxical Covenant, they're all just no brainer 2 XP buys.
Yeah, I think you're definitely supposed to be taking one, and it's just like which one do you want? And is it your first upgrade the way that like the Guardian one would be in Sister Mary, or is it maybe a scenario 3 or 4 upgrade? But I think the slot is supposed to be the limiting factor, and clearly they're undercosted as far as XP.
Yeah, yeah, I think so. You're right. The limit one, it's good that it's there. Otherwise, you'd probably buy, if you have an off class, you'd probably buy 2 different ones, and maybe even consider 2 of the same one. Although, I don't. The second one would be less of a no brainer. Man, that's okay. These really change up the way you think about these curses and blessings, because what these have in common is they make them much less chaotic. I think whether, even if you're putting blessings in the bag, kind of what you're doing is signing up for your chaos bag to get more chaotic in general, right? The math gets thrown off. There's a wider array of tokens that you could draw. Drawing any specific things, odds is reduced. And then this just controls that chaos by kind of what they all have in common is they mostly just more or less cancel the tokens, and cancels kind of the chaotic part of the tokens. So
yeah, this is also a bit of a boost to the core style investigators that get level 2 in an off class, and a bit of a nerf to the Dunwich style and the starter deck style that either have no off class or have only level 0 off class. Because now all of those core style ones have 2 covenants to choose from.
Yeah, that's true. Although I think for the most part, if you're interacting with curses and blesses in the way that your primary class kind
well,
of
like mystics, for
intends
example.
to,
Like,
yeah,
all of the mystics that can take an off class one are gonna take their
I'm gonna take the off class.
like
Yeah,
luckily Jacqueline is maybe one of the few that can make Paradoxical Covenant work. But like
no, right? Because she would have to use her ability, choose like a curse or bless, and then cross her fingers that she draws the other one as the follow-up. That doesn't even seem very good for her.
are you allowed to cancel only one, even if there's no auto fails, or does there have to be an auto fail to only cancel?
It has to be an auto fail.
Got it.
I believe. I don't think that it says
hope
cancel
to draw
up.
that auto fail along with a blessing occurs.
Yeah, I don't think that the ability says cancel up to 2
Got it.
tokens.
So yeah, it's like a bit of a nerf for like Jim and Jacqueline because they can't take off class. There's probably some other investigators that want to take their off class too.
I mean, to the extent that it's a nerf relative to the buffs that other that other investigators are getting. New player cards never nerf investigators unless they're like grief cards, like when I play that when I play the Seeker card, when I play Stirring Up Trouble, that's a nerf to my team. But not to the investigators themselves. Yeah, I think these are... I'm of mixed feelings on these. So I love when the classes have unique strengths and weaknesses and themes, and I think that it's cool the way these reinforce the way each class wants to interact with this mechanic. Like, the blue one wants to keep blessings in the bag because it uses those for other things, whereas the red ones, the survivors just want to throw a bunch of blessings in the bag to get the +2s, so that's what it does. And kind of similar relationship with Seekers and Rogues to curses, where Seekers want them in the bag, Rogues want them out of the bag. I think that this is a cool way of kind of reinforcing those themes, but at the same time, I also love the chaotic nature of this mechanic and am a little bit bummed at how efficiently these seem to control it.
Yeah, I mean they all exhaust, so I don't know. I think we might still see plenty of chaos.
Yeah, that's true. And I tend to play, higher player count to where there's a lot of tests per round. So maybe I'm overreacting on that.
Like maybe you'll just play with like a Guardian and a Seeker that keep on dumping all the blessings and all the cursings back in, and then like the unlucky sap who's not a Guardian or a Seeker just draws all of them.
No, this is, I think, that the 3-player team I want to make is the Seeker who is cursing the bag and keeping them in the bag, the Guardian who is cursing the bag and keeping them in the bag, and the Mystic who is playing Paradoxical Covenant. Right? I think that's the only way to make Paradoxical Covenant work, and I am excited to do it. Dibs on being the person cursing the bag, because they get to play the cards that do the cool stuff. Outside of the Covenants, any other thoughts on this pack? I don't know. The rest of there were a few other cards that interacted with the curses and blessings, but I think Covenants were the standout. Any other thoughts?
Yeah, nothing. I wouldn't say there's anything where I was like, oh man, that's super powerful. Like we definitely, came up with some combos. Like we were often like, oh, this would be good in this one investigator or this one situation. Maybe the biggest call out was like the new Mystic playstyle, but I don't necessarily know if it's good, but it is interesting.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think that's the other highlight. I think there were some duds in like Riot Whistle and Breaking and Entering for me, and then just some what seems like just very raw, powerful cards like Mariner's Compass and maybe just Mariner's Compass. but yeah, the whole new Mystic potential play style here is interesting. I would like to play a Mystic with these spells, but I think based on the card pool we have right now, you need another player helping you get curses into the bag. we don't have really Mystic cards that do that effectively anyway.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Well, with that, I guess we'll wrap up. If this is the first time you've found us an optimal play, we've been doing a lot of these lately because we can record these remotely. But we also have lots of playthroughs of Arkham and other board games on our channel, and lots of other cool tabletop gaming stuff. So we'd love it if you'd subscribe and like this video. That helps us grow. Yeah, I guess that is a video. Any parting thoughts, Steven?
I don't think I had done the Iron Man yet. Last time.
Oh yeah.
So I did that, and that was my first time playing with some Innsmouth cards. And definitely not something I would do more than once a year, but definitely fun to experience. So I would say if anyone has not done an Iron Man yet, you should do it at least once. You'll know whether you want to do it more than once.
I sat out of it this year. I didn't really think that after a long week of work, committing to 12 to 16 hours on my computer on a Saturday was the way I wanted to spend my Saturday. But yeah, I'm glad to hear you had a good time. Did you win the campaign?
Yeah.
It was the Circle Undone, right?
Yeah, we were playing 3 Mystics, total witch side, Marie, Jacqueline, and Agnes. And Marie became a piper, so not too far from her original singing job. So.
You gotta love when a natural musician becomes a piper. You just know that piping is gonna be perfect for quite a while.
She's got perfect pitch.
Well, that was some catch up that we probably should have done at the top of the show, but I'm glad you brought it up. On that note, we'll be back soon because these packs seem to come as fast as we can cover them. And until then, be optimal.